Hey friends, so all of us have inner demons, and they can take many different forms. Anger, hatred, self-doubt, guilt, and fear being some of the most common ones. Sometimes they are just a feeling. Other times they are a loud voice that is persistent and is telling you, don't do this, you'll fail, or run away from this, even when you know that it's a good thing. Or do this and F what happens to anyone else as a result. But the truth is that sometimes we are very unreliable narrators in our own stories. We listen to these voices and let them shape us and our decisions, and it often makes us selfish and not just unreliable narrators, but unreliable, period. Now, there is something that I want to mention before we go any further because it's really important. Mental health conditions are not inner demons. You will never hear me say that on this channel. Those are things that nobody seeks out or wants bestowed upon them. They are things that people who have them largely cannot control. I'm talking about things like complex PTSD or depression and anxiety, which are clinically diagnosed conditions. That is a whole other thing and not the subject of this video. Just wanted to get that out of the way. With that said, everyone's demons are different, but so many of them seem to have some kind of synchronized timing mechanism, propping up at the wrong time just about every damn time, such as when you are about to make a decision that's going to change your life for the better, or you're getting ready to leave old habits behind in situations that you've outgrown, or when you've finally found that success you've been after, or when you're coming out of a bad season in your life where you can see the light at the end of the tunnel and everything is turning around. No matter how hard you try to ignore those demons or contain them, pressing the lid down on them super tight never seems to work. And honestly, sometimes the more we try to fight them, the more difficult our lives can become as a result. You become mentally exhausted. Many people will turn to an outside source to try to numb it, like various addictions or other unhealthy behaviors, and now you have a whole other set of things to fight against too. I can't say that I don't understand. I mean, look, it is difficult to run from yourself. You really can't. But it doesn't mean that you won't try every trick in the book anyway, just to get a break from that voice of the demon that's telling you everyone else out here is winning at life except you, or you're stupid or lazy or not worthy of good things. It's sort of the ultimate struggle where the battlefield is largely hidden, but the attacks taking place are pretty difficult to win. So, where do these demons come from? Many of them start as self-judgments. Some are manifestations of our subconscious fears. Some are both. Self-judgment is a funny thing sometimes, isn't it? We will often try so hard to avoid it or beat it, for example. Sometimes we will fall behind on some important things we have to do, and our demons keep telling us how lazy and worthless we are. So we fight back against that by cleaning the garage with a Q-tip until it's spotless, or you decide to become your town's basket weaving champion, putting in 20 hours a day making baskets so that you can say, you're wrong, look at me, I'm not lazy, look how hard I work, look how I won this accolade. But what can happen then is that the very avoidance you were trying to use to fight those demons turns against you. It becomes self-destructive. You hone in on those wins and the boost in serotonin you get from them, but you still continue to neglect other areas in your life that still need attention too. You work so hard on that garage that you forget to pick up your cat from the salon or your kids from school. You become so fixated on winning awards for baskets that you ignore everything else in your life, including your family and your partner, and it damages your relationship with all of them. And to add insult to injury, the demon is still there. It hasn't gone anywhere. The minute you stop cleaning or weaving those baskets, it's right in front of you. So I think you get the point I'm trying to make here, even if I did use some ridiculous metaphors to get there. Avoidance doesn't work for pretty much anything unless you're avoiding landmines. In any other scenario, you've got to go through and face them. This means sometimes you're going to have to deal with aspects of your personality that you may not realize were creating the problem because they're unconscious. You may need to confront fears or things that you have been trying to avoid for a long time. And here is where the rest of the topic of this video comes in. One additional reason that I believe demons are so tough to confront sometimes is also because we often confuse them with something else that is unpleasant, the consequences of our actions. Fighting demons and facing consequences are two very different things. In order to explain this, let me share something that I have thought for a long time, but I don't think I have talked about in a video before. It is my firm belief that more often than not, people's best qualities are also the biggest source of their downfall. Meaning that the things you absolutely crush at, that you excel at, can often produce these terribly negative side effects. For example, if you're a deeply empathetic person, you can sometimes feel overly emotional sometimes, and it causes you to make bad decisions or overreact. And being deeply empathetic can also, unfortunately, make you feel sorry for people who are jerks, too. But anyway, that's one example of what I'm talking about. Another would be when you are, say, a mega talented musician or artist. It's something that just comes naturally. But you're terrible at managing money, so you squander every penny you have ever made, and you're living in a box. So all this to say, your demons are a 2-for-1 deal, if you will. Yes, they can make you stumble, but they also bring something unique and good into who you are too. That's why it's so important to understand them, so you can not only push back when they're trying to push you, but you learn that compromise and familiarity help. Making friends with something that you cannot completely defeat gives you a semblance of control. And you have to have that, because if you don't, you end up complicating your life and making decisions that have consequences that you definitely aren't going to like. The consequences of our actions usually do not have anything to do with fear, by the way. Consequences are basically an embodiment of the words spoken by Sir Isaac Newton, well, and also fashion designer Kenneth Cole. Every action has a reaction. It is reaping what you have sown. You are dealing with what happened due to a behavior. Kind of like when a child is misbehaving and you warn them something bad is going to happen if they don't stop. It's going to be unpleasant. They don't stop, and that unpleasant thing happens. As a result, they're punished or they have something taken away. Thinking about this in adult terms, there are plenty of times when we do that, when we do things we know we shouldn't, or perhaps fail to do something we should. Either way, we always have internal knowledge that it's not that right action, but we do it anyway, often not considering the consequences. As an example, perhaps you lose your job, and you know you need to find another one quickly because you have bills to pay by the end of the month. Logic dictates that you should start looking like right now, right? Except you don't. You spend all your time on the internet looking at cat pictures. That month goes by fast because they always do, and now what? Well, unless internet cats are sending you money, you're effed. By the way, if cats on the internet are in fact sending you money, please send me those website addresses for research. Asking for a friend, of course. Anyway, we make decisions like this all the time, friends, sometimes about benign issues, sometimes about serious ones, yet we do not always think ahead to what the consequences may be. And when you have to face them, most people will try to find someone or something to blame. So, who is that? Usually your demons, but sometimes they aren't actually at fault. You just made a poor choice. And that's something that you should learn to embrace so that you can hold yourself accountable. Otherwise, we end up blaming everything on things that are kind of outside of our control. In other words, our demons. And that is a great way to become a perpetual victim. We have talked many, many times on this channel about why the victim mentality is so dangerous. It takes so much more from us than it gives, which truthfully, it doesn't give you anything but excuses and broken commitments, promises, and failures. When we embrace this, we effectively take the keys out of the ignition and let someone else take the wheel. Then, when we drive our lives off a proverbial cliff, we're going to be angry or upset or feel cheated. We're definitely going to want to blame something or someone else, too. But one of the most difficult truths to swallow about the victim mentality is that it's not truly anyone else's fault that you are where you are, but your own. You aren't defined by what has happened to you or even by your bad choices unless you decide that that's what you want. You always have the option to say, okay, well, right now I am struggling with X, Y, and Z, but I have a choice here. Give in, give up, fight like hell. I am always going to recommend that you fight like hell. It doesn't sound easy, but the more self-awareness you have, the easier it does actually become. One way to work on that is just to sit with things. This is something I've definitely said here before, but in case this is your first time watching, even when you feel like you are in control or on the upswing of a bad situation, you're going to have bad days. Those are the ones you need to sit with. And this is okay. Emotions are going to come. Things you thought you had conquered already are going to pop back up and say, hello, usually when you can least afford for that to happen. That's okay too. Sit with that anyway. But do not dwell in it, because that's where you end up getting caught up. So, while I just finished saying that befriending your demons helps, I did not say agree or give in to them. Those things are different. You can understand that the demon exists, you can respect it, but remember, someone who is an alcoholic isn't made better by drinking more. That just feeds the addiction. So if your particular demon is doubting yourself or procrastinating when you are sitting with that demon on day 3, where you feel completely overwhelmed, the answer is not to agree with that voice in your ear that's telling you you're a failure or a terrible person. The answer should sound more like this. Okay, I've had a bad couple days and today is not looking great either, but that's fine. Bad days are allowed. I'm not going to accept that this is just who I am now. It's just a couple bad days. It's not a bad life. And tomorrow, you try in earnest for something better. You tell those demons, okay, you had your time. This is my time now. And even if you take just one small step towards progress, it's still a hell of a lot better than just making the decision to give up. That's how you avoid making those decisions that you know will lead you to consequences that are bad, for lack of a better term. And here's another thing it will help you do. Release shame. We're going to talk about shame in another video very, very soon. It's a powerful emotion and one that stops us from so many good things in our lives. Even though, honestly, everyone has shame over something. It's a normal emotion, even if it is a control freak one that can absolutely overpower you if you let it. Again, we're going to talk about that in depth at a later date. For the purposes of this video, let's put a point on it here. Everyone has demons and they can cause us to make poor choices sometimes. They can convince us that we are not worthy, or that we are not good enough, or that we're terrible people. Those can be the darkest parts of ourselves. And sometimes it's handy to want to blame them for everything that goes wrong in our lives. But it isn't always the demons that's tripping you up, friends. It's your decisions, your actions. And those, unlike demons, you actually can control. You can have cause over those. And when you do, it becomes a lot easier to avoid those crappy consequences. You might not be able to beat your demons into submission where they never show their face again. I mean, that would be nice, but it's not realistic. But you can definitely have self-awareness and know yourself well enough to see the signs that they are about to hijack your plans and derail you from what you know is the right path. You might have to fight like hell against them, but it's just a battle, not the war. And sometimes you have to take those when you can and make them small victories, if you will. Small victories prepare you for bigger ones. But you have to show up for them. And frankly, showing up for yourself, that's not something that I or anyone else for that matter should have to tell you. You should do it because you deserve to. You deserve to have the life you want and to be happy and fulfilled, demons and all. All it takes is one step, one battle at a time. That's all I've got for you this week. I'll be back next week with another priority message. Until then, take good care of yourselves. Bye.